Okay, so if you watched my video yesterday, you probably saw that I said I wouldn't do politics as my video. And then Elon Musk got this leaked to him. Because you might have heard that Elon is backing Gina Carano in a wrongful unemployment suit because of politics and all that. Apparently, somebody sent this to him from inside. This is Disney General Entertainment Content Inclusion Standards. First, I'm going to read through this real fast just so you all know what it is. There's more than I'm showing on screen right now. I'm just hoping you can actually read it. And then I will explain why I'm talking about this. And it might not be the reasons that you think. So, Standard A, on-screen representation. At least 3 of the following 5 areas need to be met to fulfill Standard A. A1, characters. 50% or more of regular and recurring written characters come from underrepresented groups. A2, actors. 50% or more of regular and recurring actors come from underrepresented groups. Secondary characters, meaningful inclusion of underrepresented groups as secondary or more minor on-screen individuals, including background actors. Series premise, meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in overall themes and narratives. Episodic storytelling, ongoing meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in episodic themes and narratives. Standard B, creative leadership. 50% or more of producer and above on writing staff, and 50% or more of co-producer and below on writing staff come from underrepresented groups. Which you might be aware of this, but America is still mostly white. And depends on where you are. Maybe not in Disney's neck of the woods. Depends how you define Hispanics, I guess. 50% or more of episodic directors come from underrepresented groups. Casting director is from an underrepresented group or has not been previously worked on a DGE show in this role. Meaningful representation of underrepresented groups in senior creative leadership. Promotion of a member of an underrepresented group into a role that constitutes career progression for at least one member of the writing staff. Substantial year-over-year increase in members of underrepresented groups as directors and in writing staff. So that's actually just illegal for anyone who doesn't realize that. Standard C, below the line. 50% or more of line producers and or production departments heads, i.e. DP, composer, costume designer, editor, production designer, music supervisor, come from underrepresented groups. 50% or more of other key roles, any mid-level crew and technical positions come from underrepresented groups. 50% or more of the overall crew or project staff come from underrepresented groups. Promotion of member of underrepresented group into a role that constitutes career progression for at least one crew team member. And hiring a line producer and or production department head who has not been previously employed in that role on a DGE show. Standard D, industry access and career development. At least 3 of the following 6 areas must be met to fulfill Standard D. Paid employment opportunities such as apprenticeships, internships, expert advisors to facilitate union eligibility for members of underrepresented groups. CTDI-PA program qualifies. D2, training opportunities and or skills development, craft, creative, and business, including one-off work experience opportunities for students from underrepresented groups to be coordinated through current executive and corporate social responsibility. 3, first job for member of underrepresented group in a role that constitutes career progression from prior training. Staffing from CTDI writing or directing program qualifies. 50% or more of outside vendors or contractors employed by production provide industry access or opportunities to members of underrepresented groups as defined in D1 through D3. D5, producer or department head participation in DGE Talent Development Initiative, Guild, or other approved mentorship program. Participating as a panelist presenter at a CTDI event qualifies. Mentorship will be vetted by current executive. D6, producer develops, executes a show-specific D&I program subject to network approval. Now, disclaimer, context is critical when evaluating if a group is underrepresented. Anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking candidates and talent about their actual or perceived race, color, what is that? Oh, I saved the image. It leaked wrong. It covered probably sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, military or veteran status, age, disability, or any other legally protected categories, because they know what they're doing is illegal. But underrepresented group is not actually a legal term. Now, aside from the blatant racism that Disney is engaged in for reasons almost unknowable to me, What I want to focus on, actually, is the first portion, because I can actually talk to the first portion as a creative, and I can't get my face and this on screen, so, hi. You see this first portion about on-screen representation. Now, is Disney trying to push a woke agenda? Almost certainly. Is it coming from top down? This has been confirmed through employees that have left the company. It is. Is it a bad thing? It depends on who you ask. I'm actually going to argue that it depends on where you're trying to tell the story. And you might not have expected that kind of answer from me. I'm actually going to say something that might baffle some people at first. When you, the writer, are choosing the race of the characters on screen, it's a lot like choosing the weather in the scene. Sometimes it matters to the plot. Other times, you forget about it and you default, which is a mistake. To take it to an extreme, if you were to write a story that takes place in Chicago, and it's just like completely it's not even occurring to you that to think about anybody's race, because if you read any of my books that are somewhere not here, you'll notice I actually don't typically say what skin color people are, because my core story takes place in the year 2140 after an apocalypse. People are just in a different social situation, and talking about modern day identitarianism would actually directly harm the story. But I also write a fantasy series. And in that fantasy series, there is a lot of international war and globetrotting and different tribes and different people, different histories and cultures and ethnicities and religions and so on. And guess what? Those all have their own races associated with them, but that doesn't mean those people are stagnant in them. Like, if you go to my story, The Undying Emperor, and you catch up to the current story right now, there's actually a direct ethnic conflict going on because nonstop wars in the southern country have pushed a large refugee population into the neighboring kingdom. And because they are refugees, they show up with less money, which, that is actually what's happening right now around the world, whether you like the volumes or not. But because they show up with less money, they are themselves implicitly an underclass, and there is therefore racial tension because there's a clear divide between the people of the central kingdoms and their neighbors. The people that have been living there are established and are relatively well off compared to people who showed up hat in hand. And that actually plays into how the people in power are able to raise armies, motivate people, justify their wars, and then pursue their own ambition. Race can matter. That is an example of, say, oh, it's a sad moment because a character died, we're going to have it rain. As tropey as that is, for a fact that is like the most common reason that it will rain in a story. Problem is, it fucking rains randomly. And if you're in a story and the weather only ever matters when it's plot relevant, that's not real weather. That's fake. I guess there are a few places in the world where it does kind of it is just always blue skies and sunshine. But most places have pretty regular and pretty random rainfall. I know where I live has a rainstorm every few weeks. As something I'm tracking with my Blackstone series, the cyberpunk stuff, that takes place in like the middle of the country. Flyover states, what we would consider them. And I'm actually tracking basically every single day as a full timeline to make sure that I can weave the events of future books, foreshadow them in current books, and build onto them so that the world feels alive. I've got a big timeline document to track this. And what is the microphone gonna work? I remember why I stopped using this microphone now. Yeah, I need to get the new one plugged in. Fortunately, the water damage destroyed my snowball, so yay. Sorry about that. But if the weather only happens when it's plot relevant, but I'm tracking every single day, that's just the wrong weather. That's not real. It's going to nag at readers as an inaccuracy. It would be like telling a story in Chicago and every character is accidentally white. even though Chicago is not 100% white. It's just that imagine an author that just didn't think about that because they're busy writing some kind of alien invasion conspiracy where the main character falls in love with is Men in Black, agent woman that is trying to hush up the aliens or something. To just come up with a bullshit story right there. If you just overlook it, you're actually making a mistake. It depends on what is the composition of the population you're trying to portray. And sometimes it does matter to the plot. A story is enriched. When you do have a plot-critical character, you probably do want to ask, well, what race should this person be in order to drive the themes of the story home the best? Like, if I want to portray a character who is the head of an organized crime syndicate, well, what kind of syndicate is it? What do I want his nature as a character to reflect symbolically about the group that he's in charge of? Those are serious decisions. You actually do need to come up with an answer to them of what race should this character be. Which brings me back to Disney. They have quotas. Quotas are a tool of management because this is not a creative tool. This is them taking what should be like a measure of creative freedom and decision and making sure that it happens. Because realistically, you probably should have a decent chunk of underrepresented people if you are telling a story with high accuracy to reality. Management is not creatives. They can't reach into every single script and make sure that the correct creative decisions are being made. It has to be simplified and turned into a metric where they can say yes, no, good, bad, best. And that means they have to choose a number like 50%. Why do they have to do this? Because their writers, their creatives, their directors are fucking incompetent. That means that without the mandate, they were not actually including them to a real percentage. When they're incompetent, they produce bad stories. Finding this one metric because it suits their nepotistic political aims is not enough to fix Disney stories. We are seeing a symptom of incompetency in their writing room because that quota should not be necessary. Simple as. And follow, I'm just going to remind people, if you are a writer, put it in a rainstorm that doesn't matter. Rain happens, snow happens, precipitation happens, some days are windy. Random events happen in the world that should probably occur in your story. Think about that next time you're editing. And don't forget to pick up my book, maybe, where I don't have this issue where I need to have quotas for it to hit identitarian political aims. And also in the description, you will see a link to the book club, which this month we are reading Armor by Stakely, which should be a good time. It's military sci-fi I haven't read before. And you can join the guild, you can hang out with us. There's some beta reading swappings going on and all good stuff like that. And then at the end of the month, people who read the book can come on the live stream. That's a good time. Cheers.